And typically when a visionary is hiring an integrator, they don't have time to do X, Y, and Z. And if you can have a simple process for them, it creates that quick win, builds that trust, and makes things move forward. Welcome back to the Quiet Leaders podcast, where behind the scenes becomes center stage leadership. I'm Molly Maris, integrator, strategist, and mentor for the quiet leaders building businesses that align with the life they desire. Today, we are diving into one of my core values, simplicity. We're talking about the power of simplicity and how integrators streamline for impact for both our clients and ourselves. We are living in a world that is very loud. Every day, we're surrounded by noise, opinions, endless tools and strategies, the shoulds and coulds. And because of that, we tend to overcomplicate absolutely everything. But integrators, the quiet leaders, we are wired a little bit differently because we see this clutter. We can feel when this energy is heavy or chaotic, and we instinctively ask, how can we make this simple? What can we remove? What actually moves the needle? And today we're going to unpack exactly that. So settle in, grab your coffee, and let's simplify together. As integrators, simplicity isn't just a preference. It's really our superpower. And simplicity reduces this cognitive load. It removes decision fatigue, creates consistency, supports follow through, really makes the business feel a lot lighter. And ultimately, it creates a better experience for everyone involved. When a business is simple, it flows. But when a business is complicated, it tends to stop or there's several bottlenecks. And that is why simplifying is one of the most important things that we can do as integrators, because simplifying creates momentum, and momentum creates results. So let's start with something small, but incredibly common, and that is asset storage. So we're talking Google Drive, OneDrive, Dropbox, Notion. Maybe you use ClickUp Docs, screenshots. I'm sure you have voice memos, and of course the folders inside of folders. And then on top of that, we may add our branding, our fonts, colors, pretty templates. And listen, I love branding as much as anyone, but to make every SOP beautiful or creating a PDF for every internal process, that truly is the fastest way to steal time and really slow down the business. So when I create a deliverable for a client, I always keep it simple. A clean Google Doc is my go-to. Numbered steps, no fluff, no fancy formatting. I mean, part of that comes because I am not a designer. No Canva PDF unless absolutely necessary. And the only thing I may add to my Google Docs is my copyright line if it's my IP. Because the goal of an SOP isn't to win a design award. The goal is to have a process that people can actually follow. So I want this to be your next mantra, which is this giving us a better result, or is it just adding time? So I want you to write that down and ask yourself this anytime you are considering adding another layer to a Google Doc or an element. So is it giving a better result by doing this next step, or is it just adding time? And most of the time, a simple doc is really all you need. Now, let's talk about the client experience. Clients can get overwhelmed pretty easily, and not because they're incapable, but because they're visionaries. Their brain is literally going 1,000 miles a minute, and they're juggling probably 27 ideas at once. So one of the best gifts you can give a client is an easy, quick win. We remove unnecessary steps, we create the simplest path forward for them, and we guide them into the clarity they need. And this simplicity does build trust. It builds that follow through. And the follow through is what creates results. And typically when a visionary is hiring an integrator, they don't have time to do X, Y, and Z. And if you can have a simple process for them, it creates that quick win, builds that trust, and makes things move forward. As I said, this is especially true inside onboarding a new client because this is where overwhelm is the highest. And you don't need 18 forms, 12 welcome videos, and a custom designed welcome packet. Now, obviously, I'm exaggerating, but you really just need one form, one clear next step, and one quick win. That's it. Now, to the systems conversation. This is where we can really overcomplicate things, is inside of our systems. Because there are so many tools now that, of course, they promise to do all these things. We're talking ClickUp, Asana, Notion, High Level, Dipsado, Kajabi, Monday.com, Honeybook. There's so many out there. I could keep going on and on. And there are a lot of all-in-one tools out there, which are amazing, but only when they're implemented slowly and intentionally. Because one of the mistakes I see people make is wanting a system to do everything all at once. And when we try to do that, the system usually stops working, or what happens is people often just stop using it altogether because it's just too much. Or things can break. That's another thing. So my number one rule when it comes to implementing a new system is start simple and then build. So for example, if you're implementing a project management system, only start with 2 to 3 features. Learn how to create a task, set a due date, or have a basic content pipeline. And then once the foundation is solid and you really understand how to use that, you can grow from there. Now, this is the same with all other tools, with communication tools such as Slack, with CRMs, and also with automations, because automations only help if the workflow actually makes sense, which this then brings us to the streamlining conversation. And streamlining is really just a fancy way of saying simplifying, but you cannot streamline anything until you know what you're working with. So I always start with documenting what's already happening. Not what should be happening, not what we wish was happening, not what the system could do. We first start with what is happening. And then we ask, what can be eliminated? What can be automated? What can be simplified? Where are we duplicating work? Where are decisions being made that don't need to be? Simplicity is truly found by subtracting, not adding. And then we move into one of the biggest sources of overcomplication, which is marketing, because marketing is where things can spiral fast. There are so many strategies out there. There's so many platforms: Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, SEO, summits, ads, funnels, webinars, podcasts, collaborations, nurture sequences. Like, I could sit here for probably 30 minutes and talk about all these different ways of marketing for your business. So it's really easy to feel like you need to do it all. But I can promise you that you do not need to do it all. And truly, clients come from conversations. Now, this is different for different types of businesses, but I am speaking from the integrator lens here and the people that I work with. And it's that clients come from conversations. Now, visibility is great, posting is fine, and branding is lovely, but sales happen in connection. So if your goal is to sign a client, you need to ask yourself, what is the action that directly leads to the result? And spoiler, it's probably not updating your website. Now, your website is great for credibility, but most clients don't hire you because of a new banner or an image or paragraph. I will say most of the people that I've worked with never looked at my website, I'm pretty sure. And that's just busy work. That is the busy work that we have on our to-do list. It may feel productive, but it actually doesn't move the needle. Instead, we want to message leads, follow up, nurture relationships, have real conversations, and of course, make invitations. Now, that is simplicity, and that is what works every time. Now, another place that can get pretty wild is when you track your metrics. Now, you do not need to track everything. Same with marketing, we could do all these things. Metrics, same thing. We could track so many different things, but we don't have to. So tracking 37 different data points is not gonna make you successful. Instead, it's just gonna make you feel overwhelmed and you're not gonna know what to do with the data. Now, you want to instead track what is gonna tell you if you're reaching your goal. Often, most of us have a revenue goal. So if that's the goal you're working with, we're gonna work backwards. So where does revenue come from? It comes from sales. Where do the sales come from? It comes from conversations. Where do the conversations come from? It comes from leads. And then where do the leads come from? And that's visibility or some sort of event, networking. So those are the things that you should be tracking. So if you work your way backwards and you just track how many leads that are coming in, how many conversations you've had with those leads, and how many of those conversations have led to sales, then you're going to ultimately be tracking the revenue you're bringing in. And that's really it. That is the key right there. Just some simple metrics that we need to follow. So as I mentioned, some metrics might be conversations that you've had, how many calls you've booked, how many people are signing up for your training or your workshop, and then how many sales made, which leads to your revenue goal. And that is it. The simpler the metrics, the more consistent you will be. Now, part of metrics tracking also goes along with how many goals you have. And this is a great one to simplify. I will tell people, and these are my multi-6-figure, 7-figure clients, I recommend they have no more than 3 goals for the year. That's it. Because any more than that, we're likely not going to hit any of them. And sometimes you could only have one goal. Like you have one goal for the year. Usually I'm seeing 2. 2 is usually what we end up doing. Because what happens if you have a revenue goal, then obviously your goal is you're going to have goals or KPIs that fall under that revenue goal. So for example, if you have, say, a 7-figure revenue goal, well, how many trainings do you need to have to get there? So the KPIs are there's going to be more KPIs that fall within each goal. So that's how we kind of work our way down and just make things feel simple. So again, if you only have 2 goals, your metrics are going to simplify as well. And another place where it's easy to simplify is in your meetings. And because this is another place where time gets wasted. We spend a lot of time on meetings. I don't know what has happened with the time we're in right now, but having meetings, are we actually going to achieve the result that we want by having these meetings? So again, that is your mantra from this episode is, are we going to achieve the result by doing these things? Simple as that. So one thing that I did implement with all of my clients is doing some sort of a check-in message, whether it's a weekly check-in message, whatever makes sense for what you're doing. But I often do a weekly check-in message. And this is a message that says what's been done, what's in progress, things that I need, and here's what's next or on deck. Because sending this removes the need for status update meetings. We don't need to be spending our time in meetings with a status update. Instead, the meeting can then focus on the strategy, the decision-making, the troubleshooting, getting clarity, and forward movement. So cut out any updates. Like, let's cut that out, make it a check-in message, an email or a Slack message, whatever you're using to communicate. And this is how, again, we can simplify things. And then finally, we're not just simplifying, in business. So simplicity is not just a business strategy, it's a life strategy too. We can batch tasks, choose what actually matters. We can let things wait at home that don't actually need to be done right away. And we can eliminate a lot of busy work, both in our personal lives and in our business. So again, ask yourself, is the task giving me the result that I am looking for? And if the answer is no, it's time to let that go. Simplicity really, it's going to reduce a lot of stress. It's going to increase the peace, and it ultimately creates alignment. And if you know me, that is one keyword I mention all the time, is how we need to be aligned in our business and our life, because that is when we create that ease and flow. And simplicity is a big piece of that. So the next time you find yourself overwhelmed, stuck, or spiraling into doing 7 things at once, I want you to pause and ask, what is the simplest version of this? What actually moves the needle? And what can be eliminated completely? Because when you simplify, that's when the business flows, that's when your life flows, your energy flows, clients get results faster, and everything feels lighter. I feel like that is what we all really need right now in this day and age, is just that feeling of things being light. And that's the power of simplicity. And that also is the power of a quiet leader. Now, before we wrap up, if today's conversation on simplicity really spoke to you, I want to invite you into something that is going to support you on a much deeper level. On Thursday, December 11th at 1 p.m. Central, I am hosting a brand new workshop called Work Less, Make More, and it's designed specifically for the integrators who are ready to build a spacious, aligned, and profitable business model for 2026. It's going to be a 90-minute workshop where I'll teach you how to create your 2 to 3 client business that brings in 5 to 8K per month consistently, without burnout, without overworking, and without taking on more that you can hold. You're going to learn how to build your sustainable business model, support clients deeply without increasing your workload, lead with clarity, ease, and aligned action, and really step into this next level integrator identity. I'll give you worksheets, prompts, practical implementation, and of course, I will send out the replay if you cannot make it live. Your investment is just $47, but I promise you this workshop is going to help you start 2026 with a business that finally feels good again, that feels lighter. And if you're ready to work less, make more, and build a business that supports your life, not the other way around, you can use the link in the show notes to grab your spot. Thank you so much for joining me today on the Quiet Leaders podcast. I will see you in the next episode.